And I'm joined today by the one and only Touk Miller. How you going, mate?
Yeah, excellent, mate. Ready to rock and roll. I've been waiting to get my time to shine in chats with Rat. Sorry, mate.
It's got nothing to do with you, mate. I needed to work on myself first. I needed to make sure I could give you the best version of me. So I needed to wait a bit of time. So we'll get into the hard-hitting questions early. I put it to the floor who we wanted to see on the show, and there were three options. There was Touk, there was Touk, and there was Tuck. And the fans have come through. 56% wanted to see Touk Miller on the show. Can you talk me through how Touk started?
Oh, you know what it is? I reckon it honestly is because I'm going to blame the commentators, honestly. Like the due diligence to not get it done with my name and then have just started calling me Touk, and then that's just rolled into people here on commentary, so then they call me Touk. So when you arrive at a ground or something or someone's yelling, hey, Touk, I'm like, it's not it. Like it's so far off. But you know, I'll put it down to them, but it's slowly getting better. I've got my teammates backing me up every time someone says it. That or they laugh, one of the two.
Surely you got to fight the fight though. Like at what stage were you like, do you think it's too far gone?
Yeah. That's what I don't fight the fight, mate. I honestly don't. When someone says it, I rarely correct them because I don't know. There's just something about it. Someone says it and I'm like, that hurts a bit, but I'll just keep it moving. I don't want to make it awkward for them too. That's the thing. Like, if I correct someone on the spot and
stuff them.
I know. It just makes them feel awkward and they're trying to be nice. And normally they'd say it without confidence. The ones that get me is when someone says Touk with confidence.
Like that's actually your name, mate.
Yeah, that hurts a bit. Mate, I do have a story about the other day. I was at a junior football club and I got introduced. It was probably one of the worst ones I had. And the guy was standing at the front and he goes, without further ado, this guy needs no introduction. We've got Touk Miller. And I was like, I was sitting there. I was standing there and I didn't react because I didn't think he was talking about me. And then I'm like, he's talking about me. He's Touk Miller. I'm like, nah, mate. Anyway, didn't correct him. I just let it go. I was like, that's as bad as I've had. That was recently too. It was like a couple months ago. I was like, mate, that is the no introduction as well. That hurt.
He's let it in. I didn't even think Touk was a viable option.
No, it wasn't. Oh, well, I didn't think it was either, mate. I mean, Touk, I've had Tuck, but Touk, nah, never. Anyway, you know, the list goes on.
We're here now though. So people would know a bit of a background between you and I, obviously coming from the same area, playing at the same local junior football club, being Maribyrnong Park, going to school together for a couple of years. One thing I've noticed and watching you grow up was your drive for, at that stage, it was sporting excellence. Can you talk me through a bit about that? Like you're a gun cricketer, played grade cricket for Melbourne.
North Melbourne, yeah.
Melbourne,
yep.
Keeper.
Yep.
And then also always been around the market footy. So how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like growing up in Melbourne, inner city Melbourne, I mean, you're in the hub of footy, so everything's football. I grew up barracked for Essendon when I was really young. Funnily enough, the only reason I picked Essendon, my whole family goes for Geelong, was because we had a footy jumper day in kindergarten, and my dad, if anyone knows, my dad is from America, doesn't know a lot about football, but he's learnt over the last 25 years, 26 years, and anyway, he took me to the AFL store and he said, pick a jumper. And I picked an Essendon jumper. And then ever since I barracked for Essendon. So that was kind of how I got onto that bandwagon. And then, I don't know, I tried my hand at so many sports. When I was growing up, like young, did little athletics, being at Maribyrnong College actually, and especially when you're younger, just to get days off school, you try your hand at every possible sport. So, I mean, I played netball at one stage. I was part of the A team for table tennis. We went to states actually, and I was fourth string getting carried. Did the swimming carnivals, all of the above. So I tried my hand at a lot of different things. But the ones that stuck were obviously footy and cricket. I probably picked up cricket when I was about 11 years old. I went to Footscray United with one of my best mates at the time, Nathan McClellan, and his family were involved there. And I rolled the arm over a few times, just enjoyed it, played a bit of Milo cricket back in my day. And I really loved it. And then I picked it up pretty well. And then I became a keeper because cricket's a little bit tedious, a bit boring. So I was kind of like, how can I be involved more? So I decided to just become a wicket keeper, and it actually just kind of flourished from there. I went from Played for the Wizards in like the Victorian state like league thing, and was a keeper there. And then when I was at Maribyrnong College, I did cricket, and Lindsay Walker helped me with my cricketing, efforts there for a bit as a keeper, and then that kind of rolled into. I was lucky enough to play under 15s Victoria, played first grade for North Melbourne as a keeper, and then played first at St Kevin's as a keeper as well. And I mean, it was good fun. It was never going to be where I wanted to go. Footy was always the one. But my journey for footy, I've been so fortunate. I've just kind of been lucky enough to be in a lot of different state teams leading in under 12s, 15s, 16s, 18s. Got to play 18s bottom age. Spent a lot of time at Calder Cannons, as you did when you're like, 15, I think you get there. I spent heaps of time there, and I had an ability to play with really good players at Vic Metro and under people. And I think because of that progression, I naturally just end up in the right place at the right time, and it probably helped my cause in getting drafted. So there's probably nothing in my journey that from a AFL point of view that was like, was really random. I literally just followed the journey of how I thought it should have been. You play your best footy, you represent your state when you're younger, or you represent your league when you're younger. And then as I got older, being drafted became a reality. And I reckon under 16s, I was really starting to go, I really want to play AFL footy. And maybe one thing that I cursed a fair bit was I never made AIS. I always used to think that was the pinnacle. And as far as I know, I was too short to play in the AIS. That's what I got told. And anyway, that's the story I've had in my head. But I mean, it wasn't supposed to be. It didn't really hinder my chances where I ended up. And once I got my foot in the door and got picked up to Gold Coast, it was a lot of dreams come true. So,
and with growing up, see your mother Ruth around the scene a lot. What I've noticed with you is your like drive and determination, and what is it, triathlons that your mother does?
Yeah, running and triathlon. She's picked up triathlons now. Did a fair bit of running. Mum was not a runner when she was younger though. She was I don't even know how Mum would describe herself way back when, but I know that once she had me, Mum was pretty determined to get in shape and be a bit of a shining light for me and work really hard for what she wanted. And I think that went with both from a fitness point of view, but also her work. And I couldn't speak highly enough of my mum in terms of how she goes about. She's decorated in so many different fields, from marketing. She's got a psychology degree. And yeah, she obviously picked up running, and she's taken that a long way. I think she's run now 21 marathons as we sit today. She ran the Rome Marathon a week and a half ago. So that was always on her bucket list. She wanted to do that for her 50th birthday, but because of COVID didn't happen. So now she's had her opportunity to do that. And she's run 10 Melbourne marathons, got a Spartan there. And then she moved out to Geelong, and she's now started up with the triathlon group out there and with the tag crew, and absolutely loves it from a social point of view and just a reason to train. And, Mum does something that I definitely can't do, and that's run for hours and hours on end. But I definitely idolise that part of her, so pretty cool.
With her work ethic and you growing up being around that, do you reckon that's something that's rubbed off on you?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, mate, it's funny, when you grow up and you get a bit older, and then you reflect on the times when you were younger and how they impacted how you are today. Like I do that now, especially with Mum. I always think about, the times when we were growing up, and it was the small things. Like Mum's really habitual and has a lot of things that she likes to do regularly, and is big about, even if you're a little bit sick, you still turn up, you still go to work, you still get it done. You do things at the best of your ability. Sometimes things aren't perfect, but you still get them done. You have a lot of care and empathy for people around you that support you. Even the time that we spent at Marby Park, you of all people know better than I do, but Marby Park wasn't the best club in the world when we first started there, but what mattered was the people that were inside it. And I think that rubbed off on, how you grow up in footy clubs and what you believe in. And I got a lot of that from Mum. So she helped me. Probably now look back and go, put me on the right path without me knowing back then. Probably had a fair few arguments way back in the day about getting things done and doing them properly. But I tell you what, they definitely paid off now.
You mentioned our local football club in Marby Park. you get back there whenever you can, but also a lot of senior people around the footy club put a lot of time into you and I when we were growing up, by the likes of Scotty Agresta, Stacey Eccles, Stewie Donnelly, some of the great names of the local footy club. What does the footy club mean to you still, the local footy club?
Yeah. Oh, mate. It's funny though. Because when you get in the AFL, I feel like you lose sight of local footy a bit because you're kind of caught up in the dream and what you're doing, and you essentially get pampered in an AFL world, like compared to a local footy club. But when you do get opportunities to go back and spend time at your local footy club, like you have, like I have, and you remember where you came from in your grassroots, like it just makes you reflect on how lucky you were to have a club that really looked after you. Like we could both agree that Marby was, second to none in the respect they showed for both of us growing up in footy, and they gave us everything that we possibly needed and a space to, be ourselves, play our best footy. We both had opportunities to play senior footy. Still to this day, my first senior game is the most nervous and the biggest achievement I ever had from a footy perspective, purely because I had so much care factor and respect for the footy club and where I was at in my footy career and what it meant. It was just so big. So I think what Marby's definitely given myself over so much time is that ability to be dedicated to a club and committed to the people that are inside the four walls. And, you just a club that, like, we played Div 3 a lot, especially in junior footy, but it didn't matter. Like, it was about playing with your mates and getting it done and helping each other. And I know the joy in the friends I made back then, like, it was unbelievable. The memories are very, very vivid.
For those listening, Toukie and I played a couple senior games together before we parted ways for the under-18s journey. But do you remember the game that we played with Wayne Carey?
Yeah. We were talking about this before. I funnily enough don't remember it like really, really well. I just remember there being a bloody big crowd and he popped his calf in the first, is what we said.
Yeah.
First quarter.
Yeah, we got 6,000 down to the local footy club. And throughout the week, Wayne Carey doing this big haul playing around local footy clubs. I don't know how much cash we paid him at that stage under the table.
No one will ever know, mate.
Yeah, that's right. No one will know. But he's come down. 6,000 people. We've run out of the tunnel being, 16 and 14 and a half, I reckon?
Yeah.
6,000 people at a local footy club. I thought it was like the MCG on grand final day. Yeah. And he's come out, dribbled a kick on his opposite foot along the ground, the joints going bananas, and then popped his calf, ran off, and then we've run out for the start of the second half, and I reckon there was about 50 people there. They all took off because he wasn't coming back on.
I do remember that, That was funny. That was a whirlwind, to be fair. That was the days when, big players were coming out of the AFL and coming back. I do remember him training that week. That's what I do remember. And him and Cade had been on the gloves. We were doing a boxing session at the start of training, and they were whacking the gloves like real aggressively. But pretty cool moment now that you think about it, that the Duck was down at the Great Marby Park.
Oh, it's a great story. On to your footy career now, mate. I look at your career in two parts. What year did you get drafted? 2014?
2014 and 2014, yeah.
I'll look at it 2014 to 2019, pre-COVID year. Can you talk me through those years at the club and your personal performances as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I was that age, you don't know what you don't know. So for me, coming into the AFL, all I knew was the Gold Coast. And I mean, when you're young, the first thing you're thinking about is how can I get a spot in the team? Like, how do I play? And I got drafted as a midfielder, but my spot in the team was 100% not going to be in the midfield because our midfield at the time when I got there was Dion Prestia, Jago O'Meara, Dave Swallow, and Gary Ablett. So if you can find a space for me there in my first year, I think you're kidding yourself. So, those first few years, it was about how can I earn respect from my teammates and get myself in the team, and it was being a pressure forward. And I literally, that's what I went after. I mean, my first year, I was so fortunate. I got to play 22 games straight. Very fortunate not to get injured. I probably ran myself into the ground by the end of the first season, but my ability to back up games, was a massive result for myself. The ability to be a pressure forward and just get after it, and my respect from that way was huge. I think from a club perspective, like where we're at, I didn't know back then probably how the club was structured, and I don't know what I know now. So it probably is a hard one to say I knew what was going on then. But anyway, back then, being young, playing as many games as I possibly can. We didn't win many games, which was difficult. I think I reflect on it now and find it really hard to get my head around how we weren't able to probably build into what we are today back then. But in saying that, I had some really, really positive people around me. Like those first 4 years, Pete and I were really, really close, Peter Wright. And I think we just bounced off each other. It was just one of those things way back then. We just wanted to be the ultimate professional between us both. And that's not to say that no one was the ultimate professional in the club, but we just lent on each other really heavily back then. And I think we got the most out of each other. And I felt like I had some other good people like Matty Lappin. He was one who he was just all about, again, being professional, having good habits. He had me out doing touch, before, after gym, after training, making sure I was doing my recovery properly, always get me in to do edits. And I think he kind of built that really strong habits to going forward for when I got a bit older. But I built myself a really good base. Where we were as a club, was it good? No, but I think from an individual point of view, I probably built a strong foundation. And I guess the wheels just kept turning from there from a club perspective. So,
do you remember the time I come up to play you here? I was playing for Adelaide at the time, and the result went Adelaide's way by a fair bit. But then after, we had a couple days off, so a few of us hung around, and then we went out in Broadbeach somewhere, and then you just popped up, boys. What's going on? You talk about that's just the thing. You talk about where the club was at.
Yeah.
It was like there would have been nearly every player that played on the list at that stage for the Suns there together, but just like.
So true.
Like, it's not like it was a 100-point loss or anything like that. You know what I mean? They're all just out like having a beer and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was.
It's nuts to think where the list has got to now, and like, not that that's ever. Well, we don't want that to ever happen again, right? Yeah. But if it did, it would mean a lot different to what the list would have felt back then, I reckon.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like back then, I guess being young, you probably don't know. I keep saying it, but you don't know what you don't know. So, how the club was. At the time I was like, oh, this is pretty normal. Like, it's just what you do. Like, it's the AFL world, how it is. And I think as you get older, you realise, what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, and what the level of footy you should be playing and where you should be at. But again, I also reflect on those experiences and go, if I was never there, I wouldn't be able to sit here today and say that's what we don't want to be, if that makes sense, or where we don't want to be. And there was a lot of good that did come from that, although it seems a lot of doom and gloom. I think there was a lot of good. The club doesn't move forward if it doesn't have, bad experiences. I know Dimmer talks about it a lot, but, losses can be a gift. And if you look at what has happened in the past with the Gold Coast Suns, like, you probably got to see it as a gift. Yes, we wanted success back then, wasn't to be, but do we end up where we are now? Probably not. So I think it's really important to reflect back then that, those bad experiences have probably helped us to get to where we are now and to get to the stability that we have and to have the people in the roles that we do. It's a massive result for the club.
We'll give the COVID year a miss, but we'll go into 2021 and 22, back-to-back All-Australians and a coach's award in there.
Yep.
Averaging 22 disposals in 2019, gone up to 31 from 2021. Something had to have changed. What was it? Is it? Don't give away all your secrets.
The boys started giving me the ball before.
Yeah. It can't just be that, mate. Talk us through what you mightn't have changed anything, but you added. I know there's different stuff you do. I've seen you in here we're all eating what the dietitian Benny Parker cooks us. It's great. But sometimes you whip out your own little pre-cooked meal, or seen you do training overseas before, scheduled Red Bull sessions, stuff like that. So talk me through whether that is it or there's other stuff that you've done, because that just doesn't happen.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, from an individual point of view, getting accolades, it is nice. Like, everyone, you can't sit here and say, I didn't enjoy getting accolades at the time. And for me, yes, I was playing my best footy, but I also feel that was built off, like I said before, the base that I'd started way back when. So, you start building good habits when you're younger and you come into the AFL. You don't have a big ego. You're humble. You're hungry. You're ready for what's next. I think the ability to be curious and explore other avenues. Like, it's really easy to get burrowed down in, this is my routine. This is what works. Can't deviate from this. Can't be flexible. Have a bad year. or like just get back to my routine. I think there's an ability to be curious and flexible in how you can approach the game, and the game's forever evolving. So I think you have to evolve with it. And I feel like for me, over the course of 5, 6 years, I had an ability to be able to do that. And I was so fortunate that the support team I had around the club to help me was second to none. Like I think about blokes like Alex Rigby. Doesn't get a hell of a lot of accolades for what he does, but he's one of the best in the business from a high performance perspective, and he always pushes me into finding new ways to get better. And a lot of people talk about 1%ers, and I think the only way you can actually gain that 1% is by doing it regularly. So I've tried my hand at a few things. You talk about it from a diet point of view. I did some things last year where I worked on just improving my diet, and what it ended up coming back to was after about 6 months was less about being super strict and more about creating better habits on how you eat and what you perceive as eating well, and your daily routine. And it's the same with your off season. Like so many people, you go and have an off season, and some people see off season as, oh yeah, I'll just go off season, go travel, do this, do that, do a bit of training, come back kind of fit. And I reckon I had many years where I went and ran myself into the ground. And although that might not have helped me later in the year, the following year, I think over the years, as I've started to evolve and get more mature and understand how to use my off season better, it's helped me become more effective later in seasons. And I feel like I just reaped the rewards in those 2 years, and even into the future as well. Like I feel like I've created a really strong base. You talk about the training I did in America. I know Boki spent some time over there in Santa Cruz, and did a little training camp there with Austin, and I felt like when I went over there, that was just off my own bat. It was a solo thing. I reached out to Boki, got in touch, went over there and spent some time on. I really wanted to work on my footwork and my speed, and just different ways I can use my body in the contest. And I spent a week there. Again, you got to be open minded. Like we did some really weird stuff, but in doing that, I felt like I just created like ability to learn and absorb different information and how I can use it. So out of the 100% of stuff I learned over there, I might have only brought back 10 to 15%, but that can make me that little bit better. And I look back on some of those videos now, and I actually still do have some of those little cues that I picked up that we worked on over there. And like I said, I think it comes down to there's just a lot of people that have helped me along the way and along the journey. And, there's a bit of luck involved as well. Like you got to be fortunate to not be injured and to take the most of your opportunity when it comes. And I felt like I did that when I had my chance to really make my statement as a AFL football player. And I felt like I did, but that was off the back of some pretty heavy workload in the years before. And hopefully we can see some more success as a team as well. So I'm looking forward to what's to come. So
that's all the intricate stuff that you can do at home. What about footy stuff? Like have you put more time in on working out where to run? Putting yourself in, you know what I mean? Like putting yourself in good spots, because that's all stuff that you can do at home and anyone else could do. But there are the intricacies of the AFL game. Like what are the sort of things that you've been focusing on from a footy perspective?
Yeah, I remember early days I had a serious knock on my ability to kick the ball, and I went to work on that pretty heavily. For the first 3 or 4 years, I spent hours just working on my technique with kicking. That was with Skinny at the time, Matty Lappin, and even Shorey as well when he was here, and Mal as well. So it was just about improving my technique and kicking, how to be more composed with the ball in hand, and then the running stuff and the running patterns and understanding the game. I think that comes from a bit of a maturity point of view, like understanding the game and how it flows. Like I remember my first game as a blur versus now you can remember pretty much the whole entire game. So being able to probably not have so much built up pressure in a game and understand how much time you have and where your strengths are and where they lie and how you can use them effectively. I think I've started to grow that over the last 4 years. I probably figured out that my ability to be able to run and use my power and use my leg speed to get out of contests and get at people and put pressure on. I think when I started to figure I could do that and actually use it as a weapon in game is when things started to turn for me. And I had a few games I remember in that 2021 season. I think it was against Sydney. We played them up here and we knocked them off. And it was just like I left the game going, man, I felt like I just used some weapons I didn't know I had, and that was like my running capacity and my strength in the contest. And I kind of just got the ball rolling from there. I obviously rolled into a really nice year for myself, but that confidence in my own ability definitely stemmed from understanding my strengths better and how to use them.
And keeping yourself level throughout the week, something that you said, it would have been a while back now, caught me off guard a fair bit about how detailed everything that you do is. You mentioned you had a board that you would put photos up on that would resemble the week that was, or something that really stood out for you for the week or a game. Can you talk me through that and what you got out of that, or what the purpose of that was for?
Yeah. So, so kind of each year I do something slightly different, but it all comes down to just having a bit of structure in my weeks and kind of setting myself up to have the best week possible to play well on the weekend. And I had the last few years I've been working on this thing where I'd have some overarching philosophies of what my year was and why I play and why I play football and who I play for. So I had photos of, my family and my friends and my teammates and the communities and who else do I have up there? People who I've like spent time with and supported me over time. And then I kind of broke my year up into, 1 to 4 weeks roughly. And I'll just do blocks. So, first block would be, rounds 1 to 4. And I'd kind of have little things that I wanted to do, get out of that week. And then after each week, I'd print out a photo on like a little Polaroid thing, and then I'd pin it up on the board. I have a cork board where it all sits on, and I'd pin it up. And essentially what I was trying to create by the time I got to the end of the year was I was trying to have memories. So I look back and I have all these memories of, which week things had happened. Like, the first game I got to captain when I was over in Perth was a huge moment for me. And I've got a picture of me walking out the race with the team behind me, and that was a big moment. And yeah, I think it's just a good reminder of, to keep you on track, because as you know better than anyone, like the footy year is long. Like when you get to rounds 14, 15, 16, it feels like you're really in the thick of it and deep, and you need something to probably keep you in check and remind you of, what got you to where you were and how you can play your best footy. So I've scaled it back a little bit from there now, probably matured a bit more in that regard, but I definitely felt it was really effective at the time.
You mentioned being a big moment, first game skipper for the club. A lot in the AFL, leadership is kind of something that the good players fall into. But what I picked up coming into the club from yourself, there was a want to be captain as well, which some people might take as for lack of a better term, a bad thing. But I feel like it's coming from a great place. But there was this urgency and eagerness to be captain. Why is that, and was that, and what do you love about being skipper now?
Yeah, I mean, I was really fortunate growing up. I was in leadership roles my whole career. Like I had under 12s, for Victoria, I was captain. Under 15s, I was vice captain. Under 16s and 18s, I was captain. So it was something I wasn't shy from. I wasn't shying away from, and I felt when I got to the club, like I said before, all I want to do is earn respect of my teammates and just make sure, put myself on the map a bit in terms of how I played, and then the leadership stuff would come. But I definitely reckon by the second year, I was like, I would love to be involved in the leadership space at this club. Like for me, coming to the Gold Coast, I never have a thought of leaving. So as soon as I got here, I was initially like, how can I, work my way into this club and, sew myself into the seats type thing. So when that leadership opportunity came, and I had a few moments where I was getting, brought into meetings and, shown the pathway with that leadership space. I took it with both hands and I loved it. I think I was in the leadership group at the end of my second year, start of my third year, and kind of just progressed from there. Obviously there's quite a few things that have been well documented of what happened to the club at the time, and a couple of ex-skippers left. Then Dave took over and Witsy, and I think it was what they did for the club and are still doing for the club will never be forgotten. And I think they paved the path for how I want to captain the club and where I want to be as a captain. It's funny, like I remember when Maisie and Lynchy left, I was like, this is my time to be a skipper. And yeah, I remember when I got told I was going to be vice captain, part of me was like, oh, damn, I really wanted that. But I reflect on that now and the years where Dave was captain and I 100% wasn't ready. And I had so much more maturing to do. And I didn't see the full side of what it is to take on a captaincy and what it means and how much is involved with that. And I think over time, I started to see that, and then for the baton to be passed down, which doesn't really happen much and it hasn't happened in our history, I thought was really, really special. And the fact that Dave was willing to give up that spot, which is a pretty cherished moment, was huge for me, and forever grateful for that. And yeah, I mean, I'm still learning. I'm only 3 years in. I'm in my 3rd year of captain, and I absolutely love it. Yes, it comes with its extras, but I think that's the responsibility you want to bear. I love every single part of it, of being skipper. I think an ability to be able to lead a group into battle on the weekends and be able to draw the most out of people is such an exciting thing to be able to do. And you got to be selfless. You got to buy ego a few times. You got to be humble, and it comes with that part of it. But that's just part of the gig, and hopefully, doing it for a long time. What's
the hardest part?
I think you definitely bear the weight of a lot of what happens at the club. Like we've said before, we haven't had a lot of success, and you can bear that a bit. That can really hurt and hit home. You really feel like you're part of that and why the reason it's not happening, and you question yourself, and that can be hard sometimes. But in saying that, I feel like it also shows you just how much you care for the team and the club, and how much respect you have for it. And AFL's hard. Like it's never easy.
To give people a bit of perspective on the extras that actually come with the territory, what's the other stuff that you get roped into or that you got to go to? Like, I know that'd be the obvious when someone stuffs up, we don't want that to happen, but I'm sure you get a lot of phone calls on how to approach it and all those sorts of aspects to the captaincy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, things from disciplinary stuff, even just the extra meetings, like things like today. So you're doing a review, like a lot of boys have the review meeting and then that's it, versus we've got a leaders meeting in the morning, which means the night before I'm probably preparing notes for that leaders meeting, and then we do a leaders meeting with Dimmer to go over what we talked about, and then then we've got our review after that. And so it's probably things like that. It's probably just the more meetings. I mean, from a commitment point of view, you might do 1 or 2 extra appearances, but I mean that's just part of it. I think it's more just how much more holistically you have to understand what's going in the club. So it might not just be talking about the game on the weekend. It's talking about how the locker rooms are operating, how's the synergy between admin staff and the playing group, and, was the buffet good on the weekend? Sounds ridiculous, but like those are the small details.
Heavy hitting questions, mate.
Well,
we need a good feed.
But sometimes you skip over that stuff and you're like, after a few times you keep skipping it, it gets back and creates locker room chat, and then you know what it's like, it spirals a bit. So
the sticky date was good on the weekend though, wasn't it? That was great.
A sticky day, mate.
It was good. It got me the stuff I didn't even play, mate. Are there any other leaders that you draw inspiration off? I've seen your notebook, whether it might have been last year's, all the names on it. Have you run with that again this year?
No, I haven't, but I still do have that notebook at home. I had a lot of people that influenced me that were on that notebook, whether that was in person, people like Ali Day. I've had a heavy influence in the last, couple of years with myself. And, we talked about Boki, but just small conversations here and there, some books that I've read as well, that I've drawn inspiration from. I just feel like people who I've crossed paths with in my life and have had an impact, especially in the last few years, kind of ended up on the notebook and just gave me a small reminder of, where I've come from and who's impacted me.
We'll get into your golf game, mate, now. I know you
love this.
I know you love this. What's your handicap at the minute?
Great question to start off. No, my handicap's at 4.3. So it's not too bad at the moment. I want to get to scratch. That's my goal.
When do you think you'll be there?
Oh, everyone tells me it's really hard, and it is proving really hard that I've got this low now. I don't know. Give me maybe 2 or 3 years, but I would love to be 2 or 3 by the end of this year. A few foot wedges to get me there.
Yeah, a few Brandon Ellis. Just do what Brando does and just doesn't count a couple of them.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I had 1, 2 birdie, mate. Just put me down.
So where were you at a year ago and then even 2 years ago with your handicap?
2 years ago, I reckon I would have been maybe like low teens, maybe like 12, 13. And then I worked my way into the tens, and then it was like I was chasing single digits. And then once I was chasing single digits, I was like, I need to get under 5, and then strung together a few rounds, spent a lot of money, and all of a sudden I've gone under 5, and now it's like chase scratch. So, I love golf, mate. It's just everyone who's got the bug and becomes a bit of a nuffy, I've got the time for it as well. I appreciate golf for what it is. I watch golf, listen to golf podcasts, buy all the golf gear, just a full nuffy, but I love it. It's just something about it, how monotonous it is, and the fact that, you're hitting a small golf ball into a small hole and you're 500 meters away. Like, it just seems ridiculous, but there's a strategy to it. And one day your driver's working, next day your putter's working, then something else goes missing. And the fact that you can spend, 3-4 hours out on a course where it's dead quiet, the sound of a driver hitting the ball just sounds like unbelievable. It's one of my favourite things to do.
Seems like there's a common theme though, mate, with your footy, prior to footy, like even school sport growing up, and golf, that the pursuit of excellence is quite prevalent in your life, would you say?
Yeah, it is. That's a great pickup. It is something that I'm just forever chasing. I'm just one of those people. My personality is just, when I have a go at something, I want to become the best at it. And if I'm not the best at it, I'm going to try my ass to try and get the best at it. So funnily enough, golf was one of those things. I remember I got intro to golf when I first got up here. I played a round at Robina Woods, hired a set of golf clubs, paid for a round, cost me $250, never again. Went and got another set of clubs, brought my own set of clubs. All of a sudden I was playing at Burleigh with Maisie, then became a member at Burleigh, got hooked. And then I'm like, I need to become good so I can be better than a social golfer, and then better than everyone else. And then wanted to be better, the best golfer at the club. And then now it's turned into I want to chase scratch. It's just never ending, mate. Next minute it will be I want to get on tour. So
it seems like it's also rolled its way over into stuff outside of sport that's in your life though. Like, your house is unbelievable.
Thanks, man.
You've got a great car. Like, I just feel like there's this thing of just wanting the best out of everything you can do. Is that also something you feel like you're chasing outside of football also?
Yeah, definitely. Footy's always a priority. Next to probably obviously under your family and stuff like that. But in terms of a work perspective, and footy is priority number one, and get the most out of myself with that. I do. I think what footy brings is an opportunity when you're young to do things that probably most people can't. And I think you got to be, pretty lucky to experience that. And like, you're the same. The fact that you can be, 25 and buy your first house, and we're lucky enough to build our dream home, myself and my partner Maddie. And I think the fact that we've been able to do that has been unbelievable. Yes, we probably went big and bold, but that's what we wanted to do. And we try not to. It's not about throwing in other people's faces. It's more just about we probably earned the right to be able to do that and live that lifestyle while we can. And footy's not forever, so you got to make the most of it while you can. And I feel like that's what we're both doing, and we're trying our best to get the most out of that. And definitely can't say that I don't love the footy lifestyle. So very fortunate.
I feel like if there is going to be someone who can find out how to play footy forever, though, mate, it's going to be you.
I'll find a way.
With all the extras.
I'll find a way.
You mentioned, mate, every team growing up, all state teams, and then you go through the path apart from the AOS, you go through the generic path, and then, am I correct in saying you've never played a twos game?
Yeah.
So in that, so me sitting back, just from an outsider's perspective, I look at setbacks and I would say that you've had none. But what are some really, like, if you may not have compared to other people, but that have challenged you, challenging times or setbacks that you've had along your journey?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think my setbacks just look different. I've definitely had my fair share of setbacks, and I guess what a setback looks like for me was definitely injury. And like, touch wood, I've had very fortunate career, like not a hell of a lot of injury. I know I had my knee last year and I had an ankle reconstruction in my first year, but I think what come with that is an ability to become more resilient. And I see those injuries as a gift as well, that the fact that anyone who's been in rehab for a long time, you've experienced it can get real lonely. And the fact that you got to kind of grind yourself out of that, and you got to get yourself back to a point where you can play at a high standard again. Is so important. But I think for me, the ones that I look back the most in terms of setbacks are my injuries. My second year, I did my ankle in the first game of the season against Essendon. Took 2 weeks off. First time I'd ever missed AFL footy, so that was a shock to the system. Then was I going to get back in the side? I was lucky enough to come straight back in. My ankle wasn't right, but I played the whole year with a whole roll of tape on my ankle pretty much the whole year. Only trained once a week. Lindsay put so much time into getting myself ready to play on the weekend. You know, I look back now, there was some games I played where I 100% was not ready to play, but again, reflect on I wasn't ready to play, but I did. And that resilience piece, like the fact I could get through that and play under duress, probably helped me down the track. So very, very fortunate with that. And then, I just think that those setbacks, my knee last year probably came as a shock. You string together so many games of footy and you play for the time that I have, you think you become bulletproof a little bit, and it was a real shock to the system. I remember leading to last season, like I was in the best condition I'd ever been in, and I felt that way, and I really felt unstoppable, and I felt like I was in such a good spot, and I think I built myself up so highly in my head in terms of what I could achieve and what I could do and how I could help this team, become what we wanted to be. It probably tipped me over the edge. I actually think it's a weird thing. Some people believe it. I kind of felt like it was just meant to be, and I accepted that. It took me a little bit of time, but I did accept it. Where I was in me doing my knee and that setback at the time when I felt like I was at my peak to cut me down. It was pretty hard. But in doing that, you just get up and you move on. I remember I had that setback, and the first thing I wanted to do was, what am I doing to get back as soon as possible? And I feel like, again, it was all about that support network. I had Riggers, I had Lindsay, I had a club that backed me in, that was lucky enough to take me to places. I got to go to Darwin for 10 days, and even though I wasn't playing, spend time with the boys, having a chance to show leadership in other ways rather than on field, and obviously work on my knee. So I turned a 16-week recovery into 10 weeks, finished the season off, played 4 or 5 games, and then rolled into off-season ready to go and had a full preseason. So those are probably the setbacks for me that I probably struggled with the most. Yes, I didn't get dropped, but I'm sure there was times that I probably would have, but circumstances changed. We had a lot of players that were injured at the time, and I just happened to be available, and I got my time to play, and I'm very fortunate for that. I do look back on those injuries now and those setbacks, and they create a hell of a lot of resilience in the way I play footy now.
Yeah, you mentioned building yourself up and what you can do or could do or you thought you could do for the team at that instance. In hindsight now, and you said that way to that, is that something that you've gone to again, or is it just more so you're taking it easier leading into this season and this season at the minute, or are you back to there with all that weight of expectation on yourself?
No, I think I found a tipping point last year. That was what I learned from that. I think that when I look back on last year and reflect on it, I really went back and I took in a bigger picture, and I think I lost sight of things that mean a lot more to me, and that is the quality time you get to spend with your family, the quality time you get to spend with your mates at the football club, the boys. Do you know what I mean? Like being able to play AFL footy. When that gets taken away from you, you're so quick to go, man, like nothing else matters when you get something that you love so much taken away from you. And that's how it felt. I reflect on that and go, I just got to this point where I was just like so hell-bent on like, got to do everything to absolute T. And, I talk about that, the cork board and the diet and this and that. And then you lose sight of other things and the things that actually have a lot more influence in your life. And, you've got a young family now, but how much time you spend with Georgia and your little one, Daisy, is more than you spend anywhere else. And that's where your time should be, and where you should actually build that relationship and build that connection and have a safe space and something that you'd love to go back to. And at the same for footy, like you don't want the footy to become something you don't want to go to and is a burden, or if things aren't going right, you get sour. So I think I learned a lot from that. And I'm not saying I've got it down pat now and it's perfect, but what I have learned is that sometimes you need to step back a bit and give yourself a bit of perspective on what is real and, what you're doing and how you need to operate. And I just feel like it gave me like I said, I've said perspective a lot, but it really did, gave me that. And I look at it now and I feel like I'm in a better spot this year, a lot far better spot. And I feel like as a team and a collective, we're in a absolute ripping position to go forward.
And on the team there, with the changes that were made in the last few months, where do you think the club's at as opposed to where you've seen it in your 10 years?
Yeah, it's my 10th year now.
10th year.
I know,
10th year at the club.
Crazy. I mean, you know, anyone who's probably spent time under Dimmer understands like his ability to be, his attention to detail is through the roof, and it kind of shines through in what we want to get out of in our system and our process. And I mean, the depth in our play in this is insane. I honestly believe like our whole entire play in this can play one's footy. And that's when it just comes down to a selection thing. But I think that what we've been able to build, and it's not like Dimmer came and all of a sudden you start playing well and things would just be rosy. It's, you know, years and years of, you know, making sure that we've retained players and building an environment and culture that, you know, boys want to be a part of and stay and play for the team and play for the Gold Coast and the community. And I think now that we've built that and created that space, we're now in a spot where Dimmer's kind of injected this game plan now that, you know, is obviously highly detailed in a system and relies heavily on blokes executing their role really well. You know, everyone talks about the talented players we have, but the whole entire AFL is talented. You know, there's 700 blokes. They're all talented because they got drafted, so they can all play footy. But I just feel like that the group that we have can really execute this game plan well, and we're in such a good spot to, you know, build over the next few years and hopefully keep challenging for finals and challenge for premierships.
On talent, who's the best player you've played with?
Oh, mate, you actually can't go past Gaz, mate. I've never seen anything like. I don't know if you've had conversation with other boys before about him.
Just Dave.
Yeah, Dave
gave a little bit.
He did the call as well.
He gave a little bit.
That's right, he did. Yeah.
He still hasn't got back to us by now, we'll work it out.
I don't know. It's just something about him. You know what's funny? I think Dave might have mentioned it as well, but I reflect on Gary now and I'm spewing that I didn't understand how he went about it. It's funny, like we talk about all the like small stuff and detail, and Gaz was doing that back then, but I didn't know that that's what it is. That's what it is. Like that's what you need to be, to a degree, be doing. He was just ahead of the curve, and I reckon that's what made him so good. And his attention to detail. I mean, you could ask various people what their thoughts are, but my thoughts are now reflecting on what Gaz was able to do back then was as a result of what he could do away from the field and how he could best prepare him to play the best on the weekend. Like, I mean, there's some stories, but, you know, days where you come out and runners in training and then you'd go out and have 40 on the weekend. Like, he could do things that blokes can't really.
There's not many of us, is there?
No, he literally had a level that blokes couldn't get to. But, I mean, he was definitely the bloke that I look back now and go, man, head of the curb, knew what he's doing, insanely humble, and was just the GOAT. Like, no one goes out and has back-to-back 40s.
So who do you opponent admire the most? Like, you go out there, you come off the deck and you're like, they're a weapon?
It's a good question. I think actually in recent times, man, Errol Goulden, I've got to say a couple of times, I know he's young, but mate, he's just like serious operator, like gets up and down the ground insanely hard, works his butt off like both ways, and you just can't give him, you know, more than a metre of space because his ball use is just insane. So between him and Connor Rosie as well, I definitely, those two young players, the way they go about their footy, Bont's an obvious one. He's going to be good until he retires. Like, he's just one of those players that's just, I don't know, he's like clocked the game pretty much. But Errol Goulden for me, mate, he's just, a class above.
That's about all I got for you, mate. I really appreciate your time. You got anything for myself? Putting you on the spot here. Doesn't need to be anything. I'm happy with nothing.
You're happy with nothing? Have you got any questions from boys before so I don't overlap?
No, they've all done what you've done and kind of try to stall and buy some time for a bit.
For a question? Oh, okay. Well, what's your take on the Gold Coast? You've been here, 4 years now? Oh,
and no better fitting than after coming back from Adelaide. So I was in Adelaide with my partner, Georgia, and look, perennial role player at Adelaide, right? So there, we had a few good years, but you're out there. We're walking through the Adelaide markets, and you could and you probably feel it in Adelaide as well. Like, you feel the eyeballs.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, we're walking through the market with our 4-month-old Daisy, and like, you can just feel like you see the guy catch eyes, and he just like gives you the nudge, and that's for me. So I could only imagine what you, Rowley, Kingy, walking through the big CBD that is Adelaide, that gets. So the Gold Coast is great for that aspect, and I know a lot of people say like they get drafted to Adelaide, let's say the Giants. And I could only imagine when they end up making their way down to Hobart. Like, I wonder what it would be like to play in a big town or team that actually loves it. But it's not all that it cracks up to be, because the Goldie just gives us a great opportunity to do what we do and just go about our business with any externals. We can just focus on what we need to focus on within the four walls. You don't have the courier mail going, these three were worst on, these three were best on, or in Adelaide, obviously two-team town, and usually one of them's going pretty good and the other one's going not so great. So you're either the best or the worst. No, I love it. And I didn't get that when I first came in that beforehand where the list was at fitness-wise. So you were mentioning guys clocking around at like 6:30, 6:40, 2Ks, and then they really knuckled down into it. We'll give him a great shout out again, the great man Alex Rigby. Yet to get a chop out in the preseason, but that's all right. And now the boys are flying, knocking a lot of time off that. So I feel like it's in a great spot there. And as you may find out soon or eventually, a great place to raise a family, mate. Yeah. Georgia loves getting out with little Daisy in the pram and catching up with some of the partners with kids and her mates as well, and making the most out of that lifestyle. So it's great. Happy days.
Ultimate lifestyle up here.
That's right.
Ultimate lifestyle.
All right, that's all. Thanks. Appreciate your time, mate, and keep cracking in. You're in great form.
No worries. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Good work. Thanks, bro.